Hey there, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to take apart a valve body out of a late A904. This is the same valve body that came from that catastrophic converter failure autopsy video. So that came out of a 2002 Jeep Wrangler. And if you didn't watch that video, the backstory in brief is that this transmission has roughly 4,000 miles on it. Upon failure, the torque converter just simply let go, came completely apart and sent shrapnel and debris and metal shavings everywhere inside the unit. It originally was installed in a shop in Texas, and they purchased it from AutoZone. And I don't know that AutoZone remanufactures their own transmissions. They probably outsource it to one or more reman companies. But anyway, the transmission itself had some corners cut. There was some things done that frankly shouldn't have been. But the genesis of that failure was the torque converter. The torque converter just simply came apart, and it was overall a cataclysmic event because we ended up having to replace literally half the hard parts in the transmission, including the valve body. So this valve body I deemed to be no good, just sight unseen, simply because whenever a converter fails, there's so much fine metal and debris coursing through all the valve trains. Wear is heavily accelerated. The pump was scored up horribly. And so I'm not going to take chances, so we ended up putting a central valve bodies, reman valve body onto the unit and send it along its way. So we'll go ahead and take this apart. I'll show you a couple things, particularly about the detent roller here, and how to install your Rooster comb back onto the valve body without the special tool that dealerships and other shops or techs will use when putting these Chrysler valve bodies back together. Alright, first things first, I want to get the torque converter clutch lockup solenoid out of the way, get these wires out of the way. So Torx 25 for all these bolts, and they all get 35 inch-pounds on reassembly. Okay, this takes an O-ring, so if you're going to reuse your solenoid, you'll want to replace that O-ring, but I don't recommend using electronic parts over again, especially if they've been involved in a failure like this. I mean, as you can see, there's all kind of metal, real fine granulated matter all over the place. So when you have all this stuff coursing through the valve body, it's just best to go ahead and replace it. Whether it's actually good or not is another matter. I mean, who knows, maybe this one is actually not bad, but I wouldn't take a chance just on a rebuild. It doesn't make any sense. Alright, so let me talk real quick about the Rooster comb. I already removed the parking rod assembly, transferred it to the new valve body, so that would go right here otherwise. However, for all these valve bodies, 904, 727, and the follow-on 4-speeds, they have a captured detent ball and spring at this location right here. And it is a god-awful pain in the ass to get that ball and spring situated so that you can reinstall the Rooster comb unless you have a special tool. And the special tool in question is going to be Miller 6583. Okay, that's Miller 6583. And how it works is it comes in behind here and retains the ball below flush into its tunnel there, so to speak, while you install the Rooster comb parking rod assembly, and then from there you can just remove the tool and everything will be installed. It takes literally about, 30 seconds. For these with the lockup module, you want to install the lockup module and feed pipe after you install the Rooster comb, otherwise this will interfere. So here's your lockup module. There's 3 bolts holding. Once that's off, then you can take off the pipe. This socket grips really well to the extent that it sometimes doesn't want to come off. Alright, so feed pipe, lockup module. Oops. So like I said, you want to make sure that this is not in the way when you're trying to deal with that. Okay, it has its own valve. So you can check freedom of movement. If you're having issues with rotor clutch apply, this could potentially be a source of those issues. Alright, it's under spring tension, so have a finger ready. Okay, here's the two valves and springs. Alright, and all the castings and the spacer plate will get put in the jet wash, completely cleaned out, and then I'll reassemble this thing, and to the extent I can, I will evaluate it for serviceability and potential reuse, and if I deem it no good, I'll send it back to Central Valve Bodies to get my core funds out of it. Okay, with the lockup module out of the way, now I'll kind of show you how I install one of these Rooster comb parking rod assembly deals and situate it so that it meshes correctly with the detent ball and spring. So when you first take this off, this ball and spring is going to want to pop out. Alright, so you have your kick down lever here, goes to the kick down or downshift valve right there, just like any other Chrysler 3 or 4 speed unit, and then you have your detent ball and spring. So what I'll do is I'll take my detent ball and spring, and you're gonna have to forgive me here for a little clumsiness. This everything's like laid in nasty ass fluid, but what I'll do is I'll take my index finger and I'll come like this with it, and I'll try to hold it in place. I'll make sure my lever is somewhat situated, and then I will install my Rooster comb. And what you have to do is you have to do 3 things. You have to keep this ball fully collapsed into the bore or into the cave, and then at the same time you have to make sure that your manual valve actuator arm is lined up with the valve itself so it engages, and your kick down lever is also lined up. So like I said, this is not easy, especially with the everything all nasty like this. But that's how you do it without the tool. So if you don't have the tool, just orient the valve body just like you see. Come with the index finger. You're going to have to use some effort. It's going to take a little bit of effort to hold this ball in position, collapsed inside the bore, while you settle the manual valve and Rooster comb assembly and mesh them. Alright, next thing we'll do is we'll take, let me get that manual valve out of the way. Take the manual valve out. These manual valves can be problematic. It's recommended if you're going to reuse your valve body that you install a aftermarket manual valve. They're drop-in. Transgo supplies them with the 904 basic shift kits. and they're repro kits. I believe Sonics makes one, as does Central Valve Bodies. Alright, so here we have our 4-spool switch valve and our main pressure regulator valve. Again, two problematic valves in these units. Sonics makes both a 4-spool switch and a PR valve, as does Central Valve Bodies, and I think Transgo does too. So you have some options when it comes to these things. It's just, you know, it depends on what you're trying to do and what happened with the unit. In most typical transmission failures, the valve bodies are usually okay, but when it comes to a massive torque converter failure like what you saw, you know, it becomes more of a risk to reuse the valve body than to, you know, try and rehabilitate it, versus replacing it with a whole nother remand assembly. Alright, again, everything's under spring tension. Okay, your throttle adjustment screw usually does not have to be touched. So everything's under spring tension. So just be aware of that. And once the video is over, I will, you know, provide a kind of a bird's eye view of all the valve trains, so you'll get to see them. But I know you can't see them right now. Okay, this is very tough coming out. This looks like a Sonics 4-spool switch. But you see, I mean, you can see all the debris up in there. I mean, now imagine this valve is oscillating God knows how many times per minute in the bore, scoring the bore up something awful. I mean, that's typically what happens when you have failure like this. I mean, that's why it's so catastrophic. Alright, so what we'll do is I'll go ahead and separate the main valve body from the spacer plate and channel plate so that the casting is upside down. We can lift the spacer plate, channel plate off of the main valve body and reveal the check ball locations. No particular order in terms of disassembly when it comes to these. If I reassemble this valve body, regardless of whether I keep it or not, I'll go ahead and film that. But I'm of the opinion that it's more than likely going to be condemned. and just doesn't want to let these stupid screws go. This valve body was likely remanned. I mean, assuming that whoever builds AutoZone's transmissions, you know, goes through the valve bodies or procures them, more than likely they procure them from a supplier like Central Valve Bodies or Sonics or somebody. I'm just guessing, you know, paying technicians to reassemble them on site may or may not be, you know, cost efficient or effective. I don't know. Alright, so here is your channel plate and your spacer plate. Got a couple bolts here holding everything in place. And then here are the check ball locations for the main valve body. So O2 unit, late model, lockup. So they're all Torlon check balls, which is good. Torlon's a very durable material and also greatly slows the rate of wear in the seating locations in the spacer plate, which is always a good thing. Alright, I'll hold it up again one more time so you can get a nice view of the check balls. So 7 check balls in total, 6/4 inch and 1 5/16. Alright, we'll go ahead and we'll deal with these 2 bolts right here, separate the channel plate from the spacer plate. So note the position of your filter screen. Disgusting. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to point out the check balls and their respective locations. There's 2 here in the channel plate, and they are in these 2 locations. 1/4 inch. Alright, now we'll go ahead and we'll take apart the main valve body. Okay, we got 6 bolts here for the cover. Alright, as far as the rest of the valve body is concerned, you're going to have a module here that's going to consist of your limit valve as well as a throttle plug over here. And then you're going to have your 1-2 shift valve, that's going to be here, 2-3 shift valve, your 1-2 shift control valve, and then your shuttle valve. And then over here you're going to have your pressure regulator throttle plug and sleeve, and there's going to be a I guess two plugs. There's going to be an inboard plug and a smaller outboard plug. Alright, so go ahead and take this off. Again, everything is more or less under spring tension, so always have a hand over the end plates that you're removing. Okay, all the same size, and note the orientation. All right. So here's your limit valve, spring and retainer. Notice how the retainer goes. Just like that. Alright, so you have 3 springs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other side off, the other cover plate, so that we can access the entirety of all the valve trains. Got one more. So this comes out this way, just like that. And in here, actually let me take this out first. You have your plug. And your valve. There goes your kickdown valve. I didn't mean to do that, sorry. So this valve here, this plug, I'm sorry, went here. Just like that. Alright, then we have one more valve that's held in by an E-clip. And then there's going to be 2 spring seats on either side of this valve. Just kind of lift up on it. I mean, do the best you can to not damage or destroy the spring. It's one of the spring seats. And here's the other. And then it just comes out from the front. Okay, and then you have your E-clip on the end. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove our pressure regulator valve plug. And that is why you want to have your thumb or finger on in a stable manner. Alright, so like I mentioned, you're going to have your spring, you're going to have your sleeve, and then your little plug. Actually, I'm sorry, it goes like this. Sorry about that. Okay, just like that. And the spring is inboard. Alright, so we have one more valve that has to come out. This valve's dragging a little bit. There we go. Okay, that's this nasty ass valve body all apart, so that we can go ahead and clean it up. Like I said, I have no illusions of this thing being serviceable. Like if it were me, I would definitely not reuse it. One of those little screws for that pressure regulator end plug went flying off somewhere, so I'll have to hunt that down. Now let me move the camera over and give you a better view of everything. Alright, so here is all the innards of the valve body assembly. Check balls are in that little container there, and then all the valve trains are laid out more or less as they came out of the unit, but obviously some liberties have been taken with the arrangements, so owing to the fact this is a kind of a bi-level or tri-level valve body. Alright, I'm going to end the video here and just post it as a disassembly or teardown video. We showed you how to reinstall the Rooster comb in the detent assembly without the special tool. If you want to buy the special tool, again, here it is, Miller 6583. You really don't need it, but it is nice to have. And when you go back with it, for these with lockup modules 727 and 904, do not install the module in the feed pipe before you install your Rooster comb and detent setup if you plan on using that special tool. Alright, thank you for watching and hope to see you on the next one.